The day is January 9th, 2022. A chilly night with rain on the horizon, and the Houston Rockets are scheduled to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Toyota Center. The Rockets just got the shit stomped out of them by a Mavs team that would go on to make the Western Conference Finals, while the Wolves were riding high on a 3-game winning streak where they beat OKC twice and the Clippers once. These two teams have been some of the most chaotic in the league since their first round meeting in 2018, and this year is no different. The Rockets are in a race to the bottom to acquire more young talent, while the Wolves are starting to figure their season out and have begun to push their way towards the play-in. This random game at the midpoint of the season was gearing up to be a beatdown, and oh what a beatdown it was. But we're not here to talk about Cat's 40 bomb or Josh Christopher's 19 off the bench. As you may have guessed from the video's title, we're here to talk about Jarred Vanderbilt's explosion against the Rockets' weak interior defense. Jarred Vanderbilt dropped a career-high 21 points and a career-high 19 rebounds to go along with 4 assists and absolutely torched the Rockets' forward rotation with his energy and motor. Nearly all of those points came off of cuts and putbacks, where his quick processing speed and activity led to complete domination. Jae'Sean Tate, KJ Martin, and David Nwaba were just too small and slow to do anything against him, and he took full advantage. The lack of shooting on Houston's roster also allowed Vando to float off ball and fly around the court, executing great digs and backside rotations to stymie the Ket's drive and kick game. He was an absolute force on the defensive end, and both the stats and eye test showed it, with Vanderbilt racking up 2 blocks and 2 steals, as well as a plethora of deflections and perfectly timed rotations. He also played some great man defense, putting the clamps on everyone on the Rockets roster up and down the lineup. So why am I making a video for a Houston-based media outlet on a player for an opposing team beating the life out of us? That takes us to the second stage of this video, and quite honestly the more fun part. I just think Jarred Vanderbilt would be a perfect fit for the Houston Rockets. Let's get bigger picture with Vando. He's a solid 6'9" and 215 pounds big man who played his college basketball at Kentucky. He's also originally from Houston and played at Victory Prep Academy in high school. Despite being drafted in 2018, he's only 23 and a half and has a solid amount of untapped playmaking potential. Despite being ranked 19th in his high school recruiting class, he slipped all the way to 41 after only playing 14 games at Kentucky due to injuries that year. His current NBA role is as a roll and cut big, and he's very good at all the things that entails. He's an above average finisher at the rim, shooting 71.4% there for his career, an elite rebounder, especially on the offensive end, with a career 11.5 offensive rebound rate, and a stellar defender who can fill different defensive front court niches easily and mold to whatever role is asked of him, often creating havoc while doing so, with a career 2.6 steal percent and 2.7 block percent. He has a ton of energy and never gives up on a play, constantly moving and doing all the little stuff you need to win games. So how does he fit with the current Rockets roster? Pretty perfectly, honestly. He played 96% of his minutes as a 4 this season according to Basketball Reference, and that would be an easy place for him to pick up minutes with the Rockets. We saw KJ Martin often cutting off of Sengun and getting looks right at the basket that he just wasn't tall or quick enough to finish, and moving Vanderbilt into that role offensively would be a great way to generate easy points for the team, especially as Cat was able to thrive throwing in the same types of passes in Minnesota. Vando also covers for Sengun as an elite help defender and elite chaos maker, able to rotate on the back line and cover for some of Alpe's shortcomings on that end. His short roll passing could also be a boon for Kevin Porter Jr., as the offense has looked its best when he doesn't have to make every single read and instead just has to make a read of the roller, and Vando's quick decision making and high playmaking feel could really juice the offense. His ability to roll hard to the basket and also go up for lobs and putbacks could also allow some actual pick and roll to be run and not just a bunch of ISOs. Vanderbilt's also the kind of player who could start at the 4 and finish games at the 5 as your primary rim protector if you wanted to go small and juice the offense. I'm not sure if you want him playing all of his minutes there because a lot of his theoretical value comes from playing the 4 next to Sengun, but he's lanky enough, has good verticality, and the athleticism and feel to do it for stretches. I think there's a world where he could even start at the 5 and then move to the 4 with different bench units and when playing next to different bigs, but for the upcoming season, I think most of his value and most of his minutes load would come from playing the 4 next to Sengun at the 5. The only issue with Vanderbilt as far as fit goes is that he cannot shoot, and I don't think he ever will. He's a career 61.2% free throw shooter and 14.3% three-point shooter, and he's seen very little growth since his rookie year. There are a few reasons why I don't believe this is like a super big issue though. His constant movement, energy, cutting, and rebounding mean the defense still has to account for him even when he's not directly involved in a play. He's constantly a threat to cut into open space and puts more pressure on the defense by moving than he would by just sitting on the perimeter not doing anything. His lack of shooting also doesn't matter as much if he becomes functionally more of a 5 and is the primary screen setter and vertical threat for the team. The Rockets also added noted elite shooter Jabari Smith in this year's draft and have a few other great off-ball shooters, which could potentially supplement the lack of shooting that a Vanderbilt-Sengun pairing could have. Vando also fills the same niche as Rockets first-round pick Usman Garuba. Both are currently non-shooting energy bigs with some playmaking flashes. There are two main points to counter that though. Vanderbilt may not have much shooting upside, but Garuba has flashed a little bit more from 3 than Vando, and if he gets that shot down, a front court of the two playing together could be absolutely dominant on the defensive end. Also, as much as it pains me to say it, Garuba isn't actually good enough and hasn't shown enough to stop you from acquiring objectively better players with similar levels of upside. Vanderbilt is an uber athlete, high motor forward who could cover up for many of the Rockets' glaring weaknesses on both ends while still fitting the timeline pretty well. I don't think he would be super costly to acquire, either as a free agent after next year or to acquire via trade. Utah has about 40 different young bigs on their roster after trading their 2 stars over the summer. With Walker Kessler and Udoka Azubuike competing for playing time on the rebuilding squad, and Lauri Markkanen and Stanley Johnson there to soak up minutes as well, could make sense for the Jazz to move on from Vando. If I had to guess, he could likely be acquired for either Mo Harkless and a pick, or some combination of KJ Martin, filler, and picks. Jarred Vanderbilt would be a great cheap pickup for the Rockets who could come right in and have an instant impact without ruining their lottery odds too badly. His playstyle isn't super conducive to being like a floor raiser. He's not going to automatically get them 5 to 10 more wins or anything like that. But when the team is finally good, I think he's just a great icing on the top kind of option for them who could maybe not fundamentally change, but add a little bit extra that maybe the team will need one day. In the meantime, he'd still have to share front court minutes with Alperen Sengun, Jae'Sean Tate, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith, and others. And their development, as well as his own, would keep the team from becoming too good too quickly. His presence and energy would help make the game easier for the young talent on the roster and would help solidify roles, increasing the cohesiveness of what was the worst team in the league for 2 years running. So what do you think of adding Jarred Vanderbilt to the current Rockets core? Let us know in the comments section below, and thank you so much for watching. You can follow me at Ali_oop_coop on Twitter, and you can follow the Chop Shop at HTX Chop Shop on Twitter as well. Follow us here on YouTube for more breakdowns, analysis, and content. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.